If a wine bottle was uploaded to the blockchain, the fee would be paid by the vineyards themselves. This helps to ensure the reputability of the vineyard and quality assurance of their products moving forwards. This would be done by 40 different data points, including the core characteristics, radioactive isotopes, and any glass inscription. The feasibility of doing this upload would be that the vineyards understand both the first purchaser of their wine bottles and also it's coming from the source and the quantity that they've produced in a certain year. For the owners, this ensures that they know that the wine they're buying is the one that they think they are buying, and that they aren't fraudulently sold a different bottle. For example, recently Bill Koch from Koch Industries lost $400,000 on a fraudulent bottle that he thought he could track back to the original vineyard. This would be avoided if it was uploaded to the blockchain by Vino D'Annata. As is currently the case, if a wine bottle is not tagged using a blockchain system, both the provenance of the wine and also the chain of ownership cannot be tracked. The best equivalent so far is a QR code, which can be removed from one bottle and added to another, therefore not ensuring that the bottle purchased moving down the chain of ownership is the correct bottle that started at the vineyard. Instead, what we would recommend is a digital thumbprint taken by Vino D'Annata and paid for by the vineyard. This would ensure that the bottle going forwards is tracked based on 40 data points, including glass inscription, the cork characteristics, radioisotopes, and many more. The vineyards would be able to know how many bottles that they'd produced in a certain year and the first purchaser, which would be recorded on the blockchain, and the chain of ownership from then onwards would be tracked. This would mean that purchasers of the wine could ensure that what they're buying is what they think they're buying. For example, this would have avoided the $400,000 cost for Bill Koch on a recent Jefferson bottle fraud.
So if a bottle is being consumed and it's not registered on the blockchain, this creates a new opportunity for fraud. Once a bottle is being opened and consumed, it can simply be refilled. This was done by a very trusted merchant named Rudy Kurniawan, who sold for over $30 million worth of fraudulent wine. This event could have been completely avoided had the bottle of wine been registered on the blockchain. A restaurant could simply tell the blockchain that they've opened the bottle and it has therefore been consumed. And privately, the refilled wine, the fraudulent wine, the radioactive isotopes in this wine would not match the radioactive isotopes in the original vintage wine. So when a bottle of wine is being stored instead of being consumed, the blockchain can still be very beneficial. The quality of a bottle of wine depends on the way of storage. So if you own a vintage bottle of wine, you can detail the way you store the bottle on the blockchain, not only improving the quality of the wine, but also proving the fact that it is indeed of very high quality. If it was not registered on the blockchain and the bottle would get lost or broken, you could simply take the original QR code and put it on a fake bottle, and thereby getting away with selling a fake bottle of wine. If it was registered on the blockchain, this would not be possible, as every bottle of wine has a unique digital thumbprint, and the radioactive isotopes are also unique to the vintage wine.
During the aging process, it's not irregular for a bottle of wine that is marked to be a future vintage to be sold and traded several times between wine merchants before it reaches the stage of antiques at 100 years of age and really reaches a high value. However, it is still valuable enough to make significant money on fraudulent activity. This is where most wine fraud occurs. Instead, if each of these transactions was recorded on the blockchain, the purchaser of the wine would be sure in the validity of the wine they're purchasing, and the seller can insure the buyer, thus charging them a higher price for the wine. Having covered some of the issues that occur when a vintage wine bottle first goes into storage, we'd now like to cover what can happen over time. Often, collectors of wine store the bottle over an entire lifetime, and therefore, when they pass away and the wine bottle is inherited, the value of that wine is often unknown. Instead, what Vino D'Annata would offer is a digital platform whereby an inheritor of a wine could check against our system, both for the provenance of the wine and the chain of ownership, to see whether the bottle has been registered, and if it has, the true value of the bottle.
So once a bottle of wine has reached a state of antiquity and scarcity through either consumption, breakage, or loss, the high-end wines can be sold for substantial prices through auction houses. These auction houses do offer a platform for promotion, but at the same time they also charge extremely high fees. These fees can be as high as 25% for buyers, on top of seller fees as well. This is the area where Vino D'Annata might offer the most value. Whereas the auctions happen infrequently and at designated locations, we have a 24/7 web-based platform where buyers and sellers can offer their vintage wines. We also charge far lower fees than the auction houses. This means that we can undercut these auction houses because they have far greater overhead costs and event fees. So once a bottle of wine has reached a state of antiquity, it is generally sold through auction houses that charge very high fees, which we would be able to undercut with our platform. However, at times, these bottles are also sold privately, based on trust and reputation. This is done through an inner circle of vintage wine merchants, but it is very difficult to break into this inner circle. Even if you manage to do so, the buyer won't have proof of provenance and chain of ownership, whereas Vino D'Annata's platform would offer proof of provenance and chain of ownership.
So based on what you've heard, which would you choose? The bottle validated by Vino D'Annata?
Or the bottle validated by trust?